Hi everyone, this is Krista Moore with K Coaching, and we are about to begin the Krista Moore Business Web Talk Show. And this comes to you live every Wednesday at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Today I have a special guest, and it's really a timely topic. We're going to be talking about goals and ways that you can really aspire to reach your goals and finish the year strong. So I would like to introduce to you my guest today, Susan Trumpler. Susan, are you there?
Hi, Krista.
How are you?
Excellent.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you that I've been wanting you to be a guest of mine for like maybe 2 years. Ever since we started the show, so I'm thrilled that you finally could make that happen for us.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Now, some of people that are on the call may know you, may have met you in another life, so to speak, but you've done some work with K Coaching and you've done some training. You've done some speaking events like the Advantage Business Conference, so some people might have seen you years ago speaking at that conference as well. But I would love if you could give a little bit of a background on Susan and maybe some of your past experiences and kind of where you are today.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we'll start by saying that during my sales career and sales leadership, Krista Moore was my coach. So that was where our relationship first started. Do you remember that?
A long time ago, but yeah.
A long time ago. And you did an excellent job, obviously. So I was in corporate sales for quite a bit, learning and development, coaching, and that's where we got connected. And then I went off into my own business, studying and measuring sales behaviors, what truly makes sellers successful. And that spun off into my current focus, which is Unstoppable Women in Sales. I really love to support women sales professionals because I believe it's a very, sorry guys out there, it is a male-dominated, for the most part, industry. And I really think that there's a network and a community that needs to grow around helping women sales professionals reach their ultimate success.
Yeah, and you know what I love about your story, if I could just pause for a moment, is you carried the bag. You were a sales executive. You were a sales leader, sales trainer, sales coach. So when you talk about, really being connected to the sales industry and understanding sales behaviors, you've got a lifetime of experience with that. But what I'm really kind of proud of for you is that you've come to a point in your life or your career where you're saying, what do I really love and what am I most passionate about? And how can I give back in a more meaningful way? And I think that's where that connection with women in sales comes from.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It is the best. Sales is the best profession in the world. But I think we have an obligation, us who have been in it and successful do have an obligation to be able to share what we've learned and be able to support others in their success too.
Yeah, that's great. So we do have men on the line. Do not hang up. Do not leave. We are not talking about anything that is just exclusively for women. This really applies to everybody in every job, every career, and just in life in general, because we're going to be talking about goals. So the reason that I said that it's timely at the beginning is because I don't know about you, but usually about this time of year, maybe after Labor Day, I'm like, oh my gosh, summer's over. We only have a few more months left in the year. I get a little nervous. Am I going to achieve my goals? Am I on track or off track? And, maybe I shift and change my focus. So I'm wondering what you just have to say in general about goal setting this time of the year.
Yeah, you're not alone, Krista. I think that summer is such a great time because people do tend to take their foot off the brake or off the gas a little bit and relax. But then, yes, it hits you in the face. It's like, oh, I've got this goal. It's looming. It could be a goal that was assigned to you by your company, right? Like a quota or something like that. Or it might just be personal goals that you've said, hey, by such and such date, I really want to achieve this, right? So this is the perfect time to re-energize those goals and to really think, and this is the way I like to look at it, to think big and not to play small. around the goals. So you're not behind, but you are at a place where you can really push it and accelerate the success that you can have between now and the end of the year. It's perfect.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of some examples, and I was working with a company that was trying to get their sales team like back on track in September. And one of the things that I'm always recommending, and you probably have done this, and we might have even have done it together at times, is, well, let's really put together a solid Q4 plan and really set some strong, aggressive, go big goals, because what you do in the last quarter of the year, you're going to reap the benefits of it all next year, right? So if we're talking sales and we're talking closing deals, in the old days, we used to call it sandbagging, right? We would get all the work done, close all the deals at the end of the year, so that when I got my goal for next year, I already had like half of it met. No one knew it. That was just maybe a sales philosophy that I've used personally, and I'm just curious if what you have to say about that.
I don't know. Here's the thing. You can do it, right? It sets you up for quote unquote success in pleasing the company and starting out strong in your number. But what I always worry about, Krista, is, are you really setting yourself up for long-term success? When you sandbag, or when you kind of set a goal that is easily attainable, then you're not pushing yourself to the max to be able to show yourself exactly what you're made of and what you can do, right? I laugh all the time because I think about when we were kids, right? We all had dreams. We were like, oh, I want to be a rock star, or guys are, want to be the $1 million football player, or perhaps maybe an Olympian, right? You think so big and you dream so big. And then all of a sudden you get to the professional world and you start making your goals a little bit softer, a little bit more cautious. And the question is why? Why wouldn't you want to create a goal that is, that really pushes you and really creates an environment that makes you want more so you can be more? There's no reason not to.
Yeah. I want to talk about a couple of things that I just heard you say, because today our theme is creating unstoppable goals, right? Creating those big goals. And we're going to go through, I believe there's 3 unique kind of tricks or tips that we're going to give the audience. But there was something that you said in advance that I think is important about someone else giving you a goal.
Yeah.
If someone gives you a goal, it's their goal. It's really not yours. But in order to take that, I was going to say gift, but most people aren't going to consider that a gift, and say, how am I going to achieve this? Then we internally need to create our own goals, thinking big, setting those expectations out there in order to obtain that. And I'm going to just go out on a limb and say that most people are probably given a goal, and then they really don't have a plan, or they don't own it to actually reach it.
That's absolutely right. It's one of those things where I've heard so many sales leaders say, it's just a numbers game. Just go out there and just do the activity. And if you do enough activity, you'll make your goal. And, that may have been true a while ago. But I think in today's day and age, where there is a lot of competition, there's not only people and companies you're competing with, but the online presence of all these companies. If you don't have a strong strategy to reach that goal and have very specific tactics in mind on how you're going to do it, you can do as many activities as you want, and you may still not be guaranteed that goal.
Yeah, great. So here's what I'm going to apply here at this moment of our conversation is, we have a lot of sales teams that are taking and listening to the Krista Moore Show at this time. This is where they hold their sales meetings. Mm-hmm. I'd like everyone on the line that's listening to this to write down what is their financial goal, whether it's their income this year, or how much they're going to sell, or what their profit margin's going to be. What's that dollar number? And then I think that the message to them is, it's time in this time of the year to actually get down to how am I going to get there? What am I going to do? And that's an exercise that can be done as a team or can be done individually, but that's the first step, right?
It's absolutely right. And I'm going to take that challenge, Krista, and I'm going to take it one level deeper. I want whatever number they just wrote down, I want them to increase it by 20%.
There you go.
Why not? Why not? You know, that's what I mean by setting an unrealistic goal or an impossible goal. Don't hold back. Don't say, oh, this is what I think I can do safely. Raise the bar up, raise it up a little bit higher, and don't be afraid of.
So this is actually trick or tip number one, right? Which is think big.
Think
Make
big.
a big goal.
Make it a big goal. It's so funny because when we worked together, we did talk, and I think we put into some of the training that you created was that you should create SMART goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. Well, what I'd like people to consider is that realistic, that our part of that SMART goal is something that they need to leave by the wayside. That's weak. That's a goal. That's a layup goal, right?
I was going to use another word, but I'm not going to. Yeah, that's a low goal.
That's a low goal. You're not going to ever grow into the person you want to be. You're never going to make the money you want to make if you don't put that goal out there a level higher than you feel comfortable in making.
Yeah, that's a great point. And just today, we set some new goals as a company, and we actually made a financial investment in something. And it was a little scary because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm paying for this now, and now I got to make it happen. And I said to Joyce before she left for lunch, I said, let's think big. This is before we even had this conversation. Let's think about all the possibilities. Like, what can we do with this? And I think it does take a little bit of inspiration, but also creative thinking.
It does. Very creative. As a matter of fact, it is critical to succeeding in your goals to be creative, because I think it was Einstein or somebody like that said, if you keep doing things the way you've always done them, you're never going to get different results, right? Mm-hmm. So creativity part of it is a huge part of reaching, those really challenging goals. But also, Krista, something you mentioned is the way you think and your mindset. And that's really the second tip that I have for your people is that whatever you think, it will happen. So let's talk about the unrealistic goal for a second.
Yes.
Your folks wrote down a number. Then we challenged them to write down something even bigger than that.
And they got scared.
And they get scared, exactly. So now they're sitting and there's kind of sweat and they don't want to show their manager what their number is because, oh God, if they see it, then all of a sudden now I've got to really do it. So the mindset is if you think you can't do it, you won't.
If you think you can't, you can't.
Right. There's a reason for that, Krista, that I think is so cool. We all have, and we've talked about this in the past, we all have our primitive brain, which is the back, the primal part of our brain that's there for 3 reasons. It keeps us safe, it keeps us happy, and it keeps us in what we call status quo. So in essence, don't expend too much energy, because if you lose energy, you may not have enough, to
something else.
Mm-hmm. Right? So your primitive brain, you set this goal, and the goal is, really out there, and your primitive brain goes, whoa, wait a minute, this isn't safe. Stay in the cave. You're gonna fail at this, and you'll be shamed by everyone, and you'll be, it's going down that spiral.
Yes.
Into a bad place. So if you let that primitive brain run your life, you'll never reach the success you want to be at, because it will always keep you in the cave safe. So you've got to manage your thinking, and you've got to say, oh no, that part of my brain, you're not in control. I'm going to let the neocortex, the one that makes the plans, the strategies, the tactics, I'm going to let that part of my brain be the one that's controlling this goal and that reaches us towards where we want to be.
Oh, I love this stuff because it's kind of psychology and science all together. And there is a science to all of this. But how do you do that? How do you get out of that comfort zone when it comes to setting goals and recognizing that I didn't think big enough or I don't have the right mindset.
Yeah, it's really around awareness, Krista. You have to always be aware of your thinking. So you've got to, when you start feeling uncomfortable and you're saying things like, I don't want to tell anybody what my goal is because I'm afraid that they'll think I'm not good enough or that they'll think I'm crazy. I'm afraid that if I don't make it, I'll be embarrassed or shamed. When you start hearing that kind of chatter in your mind, you know for certain that that's the primal part of your brain. And the first stage of awareness is to just hear it and say, oh, I know what's going on here. Okay, wait a second. This isn't reality. I'm not going to listen to that part of my brain. I'm going to do the things that I know will make me successful, and I'm going to work towards it no matter what. So,
something that's worked for me, and I'll give you a good example, is I personally like to publicly announce my goal because that puts myself out there and hearing myself say that, also I feel like I'm accountable to it, or other people know it now, so I care that I meet it because I care what they think, kind of thing. And I remember I was at a retreat 2 years ago. It was a retreat in October, and we had a little bit of a exercise around this. And we all set a goal and we announced it to everybody and we wrote it down. And it was on a big yellow Post-it note. And I had it hanging in my office. And the goal was for the next year, and it was write the frickin' book. And so right in front of me every day was, write the frickin' book, because I've been wanting to get Race to Amazing published. Well, interestingly, we have a retreat every year in October, September timeframe. I finished the book in August because I did not want to show up at this retreat, with excuses or not have reached my goal. Now, I say that, but for me, that's what it took. That's what it took to get over myself, and get over the excuses. So I'm just throwing that out there because that might work for some other people, where it's like, stand up and deliver, proclaim what it is, and get an accountability buddy. In my case, it was, my group of women in leadership.
Yeah. Not only is it, it's called public positive feedback. So your brain, once you put a stake in the ground and said, this is what I'm going to do, and you publicly announced it, it's very difficult for you to retreat from it without feeling like you're letting yourself down. There's another thing to it though too, Krista. I don't know if you know this, but less than 3% of Americans create goals every year. Less than 3%. And only 1% of Americans write that goal down and look at it and review it every day. And here's the thing. What you were doing, Brendan Burchard calls it a battle board. You put your goal up there. You even can put detail behind the timeline on how you're going to do it. You're putting not only for the public to see, but for you to see it every single day and say, this is what I'm claiming for myself. If you write that goal down today, people, if you wrote it down and then you never look at it again, the chances of you achieving it are almost nil.
Yeah, it makes me, what you're saying, it's challenging for me. I'm thinking of something right now and I'm thinking, I've never heard of the battle board, but I've heard of like a dream board kind of thing where you're, putting pictures and being more descriptive on what your vision is or what your goals are. And I think I should do that for 2020 because it worked for the book. So maybe it can work for some other things.
Definitely. I can help you.
Yeah. One thing that I want to mention to the group too. So if you wrote down that goal and then you created that, what I'll call stretch goal, the bigger goal. Now the next step is, how are you going to get there?
Right.
And talk to people about that and pronounce it and get feedback and get some help and accountability.
Oh man, and this is my favorite part of the process, Krista, because it is so counterintuitive from the way that I approach it. I know this sounds crazy, but I want everybody to write a list of 25 things they're willing to do that would fail, like failures, 25 failures that they're willing to make to reach that goal. Doesn't that sound crazy?
That
All
does
right.
sound crazy. Now,
It sounds crazy.
this is trick number 3, right? So we had
Three.
think big, and then shift your mindset,
Mm-hmm.
and
then,
now you're asking them to fail.
yeah, I'm asking them to fail, because even the word failure, if you look it up in the dictionary, it says something about you're not living up to your expectations or others' expectations of you. And I think that is hogwash. I really do. There is no such thing as a failure. There isn't. No, there is one thing that's a failure. That's not trying. That's the only way you can fail. But if you try something, if you think of the most outlandish, the scariest things that you can do that you're certain you're going to fail at, here's what's the worst thing that'll happen. You learn something. You learn what to do next. Because if you do it, and it doesn't work.
I think some people might be, as they're writing that list, they're thinking financially, right? Like, I could lose this. I could lose my house. I could lose my job.
And would you say that might be their primal brain trying to keep them in this?
Absolutely, their primal brain, yeah. Maybe that'll drive them to actually think bigger.
That's right. That's what does drive them to think bigger. See, people are afraid to fail. So because they're afraid of being ashamed or risking things. But if you can take 25 things that you never would have thought of doing before and just try it, you're going to know whether or not you are right in assuming it wouldn't work, or you will find another creative way to spin that so that it will work.
So you're going to have to give me some examples on this.
Absolutely.
I mean, 25, I'm happy with maybe 3. So I don't want to fail, right? So so now what I'm thinking from a mindset perspective is maybe that's why I'm not thinking big enough, is because I'm afraid of failing.
Exactly right. It's all tied together.
Yeah.
It is really all tied to push you beyond your comfort zone.
Got it.
Right?
All right. So push me beyond my comfort zone, Susan.
All right. So let's say that you were still in office product sales and that you had a territory in office product sales, and you set a goal for this week that you wanted to meet 10 owners of the businesses that you want to deal with.
Okay.
Now, I'm assuming, because I've been out of your world for a little bit, but I'm assuming that would be kind of a stretch, right?
Yes.
For someone. All right.
To meet in person. Yes, since it's Wednesday.
Let's say it's Monday.
Okay.
All right. Here's the thing. Whatever the number is, whatever the day of the week, whatever it is, my goal now is to figure out how I'm going to meet 10. Now, I might only meet 2. Have I failed? Technically? Or have I met 2 owners of businesses that, now that I've created those relationships, could really earn me a ton of business?
I see where you're going.
Really failed? Or it's really not about the task. It's not about the winning or the losing of it. It's about who you're becoming along the way. If I didn't set out to meet 10, I may not have even met 1. That's just one example. But
I like it. I like it.
Yeah,
Can
just
you
one
give me another
example.
one? I know you've got them, so I think relating it is important.
Definitely. All right. So think about the highest end product that you have to sell, that you have been holding back on because perhaps you thought it's too expensive. I can't sell that.
Okay.
So now this is a product you know can make you a lot of money. You know it's going to make your leaders happy because you're pushing something that's on their radar, right? But you've been holding yourself back. So what if you set a goal around introducing that product into an environment that is super scary, like super scary.
Mm-hmm.
It's who you have to become in order to have that conversation that's important. So first of all,
the learning, right?
That's learning, that you're either learning and succeeding, right? Or you're not trying. Right?
Yeah, I'm not trying.
So the learning here is, okay, in order for me to do that impossible task, I have to do some work.
Well, you know what, Susan, what I'm getting from this, and I'm hoping that others are hearing this message, is this is a completely different way to look at setting goals. Because, and in my mind, I'm thinking setting goals to achieve an outcome. And you're talking about setting goals to be or to learn or to grow. You don't realize that's what's happening
Yeah.
whenever when you're going after them. I love that. I
Yeah,
love that.
it's the byproduct. But
Yeah.
this is why we say this is for long-term success. Everything that you're doing as you're trying these impossible tasks and impossible goals and unrealistic, everything that you're doing along the way is pushing you to become better. And so success will happen. You
Yeah.
really
I
will.
love that. You know, I was thinking of that when you were talking about an expensive product and maybe holding back on it. And maybe it's introducing that expensive product more to a technology person or an end user that maybe knows more about it than you do. And that scares you, right?
Right.
When I think about let's say you use the number 10 again, if my goal was to create 10 appointments with this new and different customer to sell this very expensive product that I'm intimidated by. And if I only made one or two of those appointments, oh my goodness, that's such a success.
It is.
It
It
is.
is. So here's the thing, Krista. You know, we had 30 minutes today, right? And we literally scratched very top surface of this. There's a lot more information and a lot of mind work. I know that I
It is
know
mind work.
mind
Mm-hmm.
work. And I know that it's not hard skills or product knowledge, but I believe that if you are in sales today and you're in a role, you've probably got pretty much the skills you need to be successful. You need to control your mind and to think differently about these things, or you will continue to struggle just to keep up with the pace of business today.
Wow, this is great. I'm going to have you, I just thought of something. So when I do my digital course for the Race to Amazing, I'm going to add a session on mindset.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, it would.
And it's something that isn't talked about a lot.
It's not in the corporate culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of life coaches, a lot of business coaches for entrepreneurs hone in on this a lot, and I think it makes all the difference in the world. But we're introducing, that's what part of Unstoppable Women in Sales is all about, is introducing this into the professional sales role, because it can make or break a seller in reaching their ultimate success, right? You
That's
can
right.
you can manhandle your way to your quota, but to reach your ultimate professional success, you've got to do some mind shifts in order to get there.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I know that we have a slide to share your contact information, and I'd like you to direct those that are interested in learning more about your new company and your focus on women in sales. So it's on the screen here, Unstoppable Women in Sales. I love that.
Well, thank you. I think we are unstoppable. And please send me an email at Susan at Unstoppable Women in Sales, or take a look at the same website. I'll be putting more and more resources out on the site. And if you sign up for notifications, you'll keep in the loop on it.
Yep. Thank you, Susan. And I just want to recap. There were three things, and maybe a little bit different than what they might have learned before about setting goals. And hopefully they'll leave today remembering, think big, right? Not small. Number two was be conscientious of the mindset.
Yeah.
Go to the,
Watch out if you start hearing the chatter in your mind that it's impossible.
and then the third thing is not be afraid of failure.
That's correct. Failure is learning, nothing else.
Beautiful.
Cool.
Thank you very much, Susan. I appreciate you being our guest today.
Thank
And
you.
for everyone out there, join in every Wednesday at 2 o'clock as we bring you industry experts and thought leaders. At K Coaching, we care about you and we care about your success. Talk with you soon. Thank you.